Well, hello there. My name's Hollis Dare. Today I'm going to be teaching you all how to change the oil in a car. This here is an Acura. I don't know the model. Luckily, that's not important for this job. What is important is that this car has been driven all morning and the engine is now really, really hot. That means that whenever we drain the oil out and it gets onto my hands, it's going to hurt. Like, a lot. But without further ado, let's get started. Now, in here, you'll find a bunch of really complicated stuff. Here's the dipstick for the oil. We're gonna use that when we're done to make sure that we've put the correct amount in. And this thing that's completely dark and you can't see is the fill cap for the oil. I'm gonna pull it off real quick and see if we can find out what kind of oil this car needs. 5W20. That is the thickness and viscosity of the oil when it's cold and when it's hot. It's extremely important that the right viscosity oil goes into the engine because science. Now, what I should have done is immediately put on gloves. This is why you do that, because your hands instantly get dirty and the dirt never comes off. All right, now we're taking a deep dive of the underside of the car. Right here is where the engine oil drain bolt is. This large piece of rusty metal is the exhaust pipe, and it's extremely hot. You aren't gonna wanna touch that unless you wanna die. Then, if I have estimated, no, okay, so that's not it. That kind of looks like the transmission, but I don't think that's correct either. Where is the transmission drain bolt? Where is it? Come on. The transmission fluid that is the transmission, I'm quite positive, because you can see the drive shaft actually coming out of the back. If you follow this hunk of metal all the way up to the front, there you have a bolt at the bottom. That's typically, if you have a bolt at the bottom of a pan full of fluid, it's typically the drain bolt. But sometimes engineers are stupid and they'll surprise you. I'm gonna check the owner's manual now and be smart about this, because if I undo the wrong bolt, well, that would not be ideal. So, I'm gonna get out from under this 500-degree engine now and contemplate some things. Hindsight, Hollis has decided to just go ahead and get under the car and change out.
How's it going out here, Hollis?
It's going great. Ow.
Is it going okay?
I haven't started on anything yet, but it's going great. Here's the oil
What's the
filter.
problem?
Here's the filter.
The problem was that I was recording this entire process and had zero experience doing this. So with that in mind, the next clip is completely out of context. I'm already under the car, draining the oil.
Actually, there's no possible way for this to fully seat.
Are you serious?
No, hopefully not.
What seems to be the problem, son?
The exhaust. The exhaust is the problem. Isn't it always? Isn't the exhaust always the problem?
Is it really a problem?
It is, yeah.
I can't tell if you're really getting serious.
Oh!
Did you hurt yourself?
I did. But everything's fine.
Alright, so here we've got the oil coming out of the oil pan, and in just a couple of agonizing seconds, we're going to have oil coming out of the oil filter. The oil filter is another part of the car that you have to actually replace every time you do an oil change. So after this one comes off, we're going to put a fresh one on for all the new oil.
Now it's time to put the old drain bolt back on and a new oil filter onto the engine. And then we're going to take the catch pan that's full of old oil and we're going to pour it into this here jug. And we're gonna measure on the side how much oil came out of the engine, and that's how much we're gonna add. And then of course we will check it on the dipstick just to double check. Oh, this is really sketchy. Okay. We've got 3¼ quarts. What we're gonna wanna add back to the engine, somewhere around there, a little over 3 quarts of oil. We're at the top of the car now, having to pour in our oil. Here's the dealio though, brolio. We've got a funnel right here. If I were to try and take this big jug and pour it into this funnel, don't fall. It would start pouring before I got it into position, which would mean that we would have a bunch of engine oil all over the outside of the engine when the engine oil is actually supposed to be on the inside of the engine. So to avoid that, I'm going to take this smaller jug here and pour it in a quart at a time because this is much easier to manage over the funnel. All right, I'll see you in about 35 minutes. I'll see you. I'm gonna come back. This probably shouldn't take too long. Man, that light is really bright. I'm actually probably gonna come back in about an hour. In about 2.5 hours, I should be done with the first 2 quarts. Here's the last quart of engine oil. We're gonna need another 0.5 after this bad boy. The last full quart though. While you're pouring the oil into the fill cap of the engine, you wanna make sure that you don't pour it too fast, because if you do, as it's all rushing down the little hose into the bottom of the oil pan, it'll start gurgling and spitting oil back up at your face. Now again, if you are a seasoned professional, as I am, you will find yourself spilling oil all over the place. And Dottie, you are not supposed to be up here, girl. You're in a hazardous environment. No, you don't need to put your head in the funnel either. We're gonna take the drain bolt off of the transmission, let all of the fluid from the transmission drain into our catch pan. Then we're going to measure how much fluid came out of the transmission, and we're gonna add that much fluid back to the transmission. Isn't that right, Donnie? Something that is extremely important that you'll probably be told if you try to do this from any other tutorial is you should try to get the fill bolt where you put the new fluid in. You should get that bolt off of the transmission before you drain all of the old fluid out. Because if for some reason you can't get the top fill bolt off and you've already drained all of your fluid out of your car, then you're gonna have a bad day. What we're actually gonna do, we're just gonna, Dottie, come on. We don't need to use a socket at all. We're just gonna put the wrench directly into this hole, fully seated, so that you don't turn this square hole into a circle one. If you turn the square hole into a circle hole, then what happens is you're in big trouble because you can't use any kind of wrench on it ever again. There we go. Uh-oh. I'm gonna finish letting this drain, and then we're gonna put this drain bolt back on here and fill it up top. We got... How much did we get? I don't know. It's not level. I'm an idiot. I'm gonna put this on the ground. We got a little over 3 quarts. There was some residual oil left in the catch pan, so I'm gonna go with 3 quarts, and then I'll check it on the dipstick. All right, so here's Dottie again, and we're back at the top of the engine bay. There's the beauty cover. Then if we go back down here over the top of the transmission and Dottie climbs under my armpits, you can see that blue bolt down there. It has the letters ATF on it. That stands for automatic transmission fluid. And that bolt is the one that we're going to be pulling off and adding the transmission fluid to. Now, we've already added our oil. We've already drained our transmission fluid. So the last step is to add back our transmission fluid. And we got almost exactly 3 quarts out of the transmission, so we're going to add in 3 quarts because that is how math works. And math is important, especially when you're adding fluids to your car. That's like the only real world practical scenario in which you would use math. It's beautiful. It's the perfect color red. Check real quick how much I've got left. About 2¼ quarts. Like that. All right. That yellow dipstick I pointed to earlier, I was wrong. It's actually for the transmission fluid, not the oil. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take our handy dandy napkin. We're gonna pull the dipstick out of the engine. Does it only have hot readings? Are you kidding me? If you look at this dipstick, in between those 2 dots, the word hot is etched into the metal. The fluid expands as it heats up, and it's supposed to be in between these 2 dots on the dipstick whenever the fluid is hot. Whenever it's cold though, it's gonna take up less volume in the transmission, and it's probably not gonna reach all the way up to the hot measurement. So we're gonna reconvene in a couple of seconds. So off camera, I actually figured out exactly how much transmission fluid to put in here. Now we're all good. It's got exactly 3 quarts. The next thing I need to do is put this fill bolt back on. What I'm gonna do now is get onto this super sketchy stool and try not to fall and break my knees. Because I'm sure if I fell, the only thing I'd break is my knees. And I'm gonna lean over the engine, hold onto the washer, and cut my arm open on all these hoses. Begin to thread it into place. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna fall. The bolt is ready to be tightened down with a wrench. Just like that. We're gonna flip the ratchet to righty-tighty. I'm gonna put the wrench onto the bolt. Make sure that it's well seated so that you don't turn that hex into a circle. That's called rounding, and it's really, 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 really bad. And just like that, bada bing, bada boom. This engine has been serviced by yours truly.